All right, guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. As always, I'm Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co host Jake Ellenbogen, and we are coming to you live this Friday night to recap the Rams' loss to the Seattle Seahawks 37 to 38 on Thursday Night Football in what was just a devastating loss. There's no easy way to put it. It was brutal. It was an overtime loss nonetheless. So the game was longer, than originally intended, and just having to go through kind of the roller coaster of emotions. At one point, the Rams were up by 16. So obviously not a fun turn of events as the game went on, Jake. But at the end of the day, the Rams lost. They lost the number one seed. Um, they, Seattle clinched a playoff spot, which they probably were, might have happened anyway, but to do it against us kind of hurts. There's a lot of emotions, Jake, about this game that, we're going to get into, and we're going to kind of talk about some plays there. But I think, to preface this before we get into this, this was a football game played by two very, very good teams. We knew this going into the game. That wasn't a surprise. Seattle is a good football team. We are playing them on their turf in Seattle, which is a very difficult environment for road teams. The Rams had a bad week. In terms of things non-football related, there was a lot of distractions going on. I mean, even just trying to get to Seattle, the plane ends up not working. They end up having to switch planes. So they get to Seattle later than intended. So that already threw things off. Then you have a really bad week PR wise. That's distracting, right? So it was a short week as well. This was a Thursday night football game. Everything that could have been going against the Rams, was going against them. And then, they still managed to put up a pretty good fight for most of the game on the football field, but they leave with a loss. Jake, you and I, we were talking a little bit before we went live. You and I have some disagreements about this
hmm
game, which is not uncommon. It's good. If we agreed on everything all the time, that would be
We wouldn't have a show, Alexis.
we
We
wouldn't
would
have a
not
show.
have a show.
If we agreed on everything, we wouldn't have a show. But, I'll say my piece here, and then, I'll hand it over to you. I'm just going to be honest with the audience because I have had so many messages and mentions in the past 24 hours since this game. My Twitter crashes when I open it because I've got both Seahawks and Rams fans in my mentions. And honestly, because of the heightened emotions, guys, I'm not reading my mentions. You can be upset about that. I don't care. I'm refreshing it and I'm going about my day. I'm not going to engage with anybody because it's just very, very toxic. So I'm going to tell you what I think. I think there's no one to blame for this loss other than the Los Angeles Rams. There were some calls I didn't like. There were some things I didn't like. I think this loss completely falls on the Los Angeles Rams. You were up by 16 points. Defensively, you completely folded. Special teams was atrocious, and our coach decided to play call conservatively, went up by only two touchdowns. And I've said before, and I said it again on social media, I think playing conservative when you're up by anything less than 30 points, when there's still an entire quarter of football left, is arrogant. I hate it. And I hate that Sean McVey does it. I completely disagreed with play calling. Really in the second half of that game a lot of the time. So if you guys are looking for my opinion on the game, it's that the Rams blew it. So I have no issue saying that Seattle deserved to win that game. Doesn't mean that I don't think there were some bad calls. Absolutely there were some bad calls. Absolutely. I think this season in the NFL in general, and Jake, I think we've talked about this on the show, just in general in the NFL this season, the refereeing has been atrocious in my opinion. I don't disagree there. I think there's no consistency at all. I think it's a league-wide issue. I think they need to look into it. But I also firmly believe you should never put yourself in a position to lose by a call or really two calls or really three calls, especially when you're up by 16 points. I'm not buying it. I'm not biting. I'm not feeding into that. Um, if you all want to know my opinion, I've been pretty clear about it. I'm standing by that. It doesn't mean that I disagree, though, that some of those calls need to be looked at. I think it just sucks that it's the Seahawks as well, Jake. And I want to hear your thoughts in the game. And I know we'll get into some things. You and I were right about a lot. Hashtag Kobe Turner interception was one of my bold predictions. How that happened,
Is crazy.
that is crazy. And I forgot. People reminded me on Twitter. I did not even think about that when he did it until people reminded me. But aside from the crazy little fumble predictions, we did get some things right, and we'll talk about that. I think we both kind of were in agreement on what the Rams' game plan was going to be.
Well, and it did end up
And
raining, to be fair, like
it,
what we
yeah,
were
it didn't.
told. Which is
Yeah,
why,
and
sorry,
don't
all
trust
the
the weather
weathermen out
guys.
there. I have friends that are weather. I don't trust weathermen. I don't.
I
It
don't
feels like
either.
they're
I'm
never right
sorry.
anymore. I'm
They're
sorry.
never. And
It
Jake,
just,
you
yeah.
know what we didn't do this game that we've started doing and then we didn't do? I don't want to say that it's our fault that the Rams lost, but we did not do a referee fun fact.
Yeah, and you know what? The only fun fact that I would give about Brad Allen is that if you ever seen The Boy, the movie The Boy, he looks like The Boy. That's all. That's his only fun fact. I can't stand that dude. I would never do a fun fact about him. I think he's terrible. Sorry.
I
Terrible.
don't know
Awful.
what that movie is, but I'm going to take your word for it until I look it up later.
I now need you to look that up at some point. And you'll be like, oh my God, it's uncanny.
Do you like one of those social media things where they put pictures side by side and be like,
Yes.
"Hey, do you guys see the resemblance?" And people are gonna be like, "Why are you thinking about Brad Allen that much?"
He looks like Brahms from The Boy.
I'm gonna
And
have to look it up.
I know there's at least somebody out there that has seen The Boy, and it's not a good movie. I'm sorry. I know
Well,
I'm throwing shades at him. I'm throwing shades at the director of The Boy, taking shots. Like, I mean, everybody's getting shots. No, but all jokes aside,
yeah.
I think Brad Allen is terrible.
Well, I'm
We had new information come to light today. I don't know if you saw this. I assume you have by now. Brad Allen, who made a atrocious call, by the way, on the illegal man downfield. Terry McCulley, the referee, analyst, expert, whatever, even said it wasn't a flag. No big deal. It took off a touchdown off the board. Rams end up losing by 1. They end up kicking the field goal. They lose 4 points on that. Here's where it gets interesting. The play before, Kevin Dotson gets injured. Okay, he gets caught up. I'm not going to say a Seattle player injured him initially. Derek Hall goes over and stomps on his leg. Did you see this?
Yeah, I did. I tweeted it. I tweeted about it too.
Yeah. So Derek Hall stomped on his leg. He's only suspended a game. I think he honestly should be suspended for the rest of the year. I think he's a piece of trash and he shouldn't be in the NFL because that's just unacceptable to stomp on somebody's leg. That said, that was not penalized. So Brad Allen did not penalize a player for unnecessary roughness after the play, stomping on a player's leg while he's sitting there writhing in pain. He missed that. But then he made sure to focus on the right guard who replaced the injured player who didn't get the call. And he made sure to hit him with the penalty, which, by the way, wasn't a penalty because he's not a good official. And it cost the Rams 4 points. And I'm sorry, but when you look, and this is my biggest thing and why I think, unfortunately, Alexis, while you don't want to sit here and blame the refs, because let's be honest here, they blew a 16-point lead with 8 minutes to go. The refs are part of it. I don't want to give, because that's my biggest thing, I don't want to let them off the hook. I think they did a horrendous job last night. I think there was a lot of bias towards Seattle, and I'm not saying that they tried to have it towards Seattle. I don't care if it was bias for Seattle going into it or it's just the way it worked out. It was unfavorable. The Rams are the fewest penalized team in the league, the least penalized team in the league. They had 8 penalties. That's the most they've had. That combines the last 3 games that they've had. They've had 8 penalties. So I thought they did a horrendous job. This last thing I'll throw at you, and this is actually my biggest thing. You know, it's so funny to me how you can have almost 600 yards of offense, 0 giveaways, 0 sacks taken, have 3+ turnovers, and you lose the game and people are focusing on how you choked. They don't talk about how well you played. Unfortunately, this is today's society. You're chokers, and you get laughed at, even though it was a 37-38 game and you never stopped Matthew Stafford, and you got Ernest Jones out here acting like he did something. You were on skates. You got destroyed. Your defense was a joke. It's one of the best defenses in football. Stafford had you guys on roller skates. So miss me with they were laughing in our face. You didn't actually do anything. You didn't stop them, right? You gave up a touchdown overtime, and you got lucky that they didn't go for two because they probably would have made it on you. You were giving up everything, and Seattle did. But furthermore, Alexis, this is what I want to point out. Since 1975, teams with 400 plus yards, 0 giveaways, 0 sacks taken, 3 plus takeaways were 79-0 prior to this game. To me, there has to be a catalyst for the choke, because it just goes to show you that, yes, giving up a 16-point lead with 8 minutes to go, there has to be accountability on the Rams. But there also has to be accountability on the officials to call it right down the line. And I don't feel like they did that. And I think, obviously, had anything changed on the officiating end, they don't win. And that's also why that record was 79-0. It took some really bad, historically bad calls for this to end up being what it was. So again, the Rams absolutely deserve blame, but I'm not letting them off the hook either.
Yeah, I think there definitely needs to be accountability with the refereeing. I think, my opinion just stands that, that when you look at who to blame, number one, it's the Rams. I think I think that there is some bad calls, not disagreeing. I just think that it's embarrassing, really, what the Rams did, in the second half. And it started, if we want to take a look at, what the Rams did, I mean, it starts on special teams. And
Oh God, yeah, I
I
know.
cannot believe, we have such a subpar, I think, and I think right now the Rams special teams overall grade is number 30 in the
Mm-hmm.
NFL. To expect to compete at a high level and have your special teams be so subpar. And I give a lot of credit to Shaheed, by the way. He's a great player. The Seahawks made an incredible trade to get him from the Saints.
He
A
is.
lot of that is, it's easy to blame. I mean, listen, the Rams special team should not have given him that touchdown, of course.
And
Um,
Blackburn is he's just not
but
it.
Blackburn is awful. I don't know how he's still employed. At this point in the season, he's going to stay with us through the end of the season. I don't foresee any big special teams changes coming now. But I do give credit to Sheed. I think that, again, Rams should not have allowed that to happen. Also worth noting that he is a very, very good player. But that was a horrible special teams effort if you go back and watch that touchdown. You had Mevis miss a kick as well, in a big moment. And Jake, I know that you threw out a tweet about him and how that was really the first big time kick he's had to make. Didn't go well. Um, you know, uh, Everyone knows how I feel about the Cardi situation as well. I think Cardi was made as a scapegoat, and I didn't like that either. I don't think that he deserved to get the treatment that he did. But regardless, I feel like Mevis has been performing well, but then made a bad mistake, against the Seahawks. And it's just special teams. Like, you cannot compete with these playoff teams if your special teams is that bad. You
You
just
know,
can't. It's going to cost you in a playoff game.
and they
Um,
have the best special teams unit. So
yeah.
that did come into play. You got to give Seattle credit. This is why it's. I was saying these are the two best teams in the league. I still think the Rams they're better by, I would say, a little bit more than people realize. Because let's not forget, this was on a short week, and this was in Seattle. And I think this is a completely different game if this is in LA, because you don't have that home crowd. How do they come back in a game like that without the home? They don't, right?
And
So
it's always loud there too. It's the way
it
in that
is.
stadium, it's so loud. As
But you,
opposed
you
to, and
gotta give credit where credit's due. I mean, Sal found a way
yeah,
to do it. I mean, Sam Darnold was pedestrian, and then he came alive on the final drive of the game. The defense gave up almost 600 yards. In a lot of ways, Seattle was dominated in pretty much every aspect of the game, but special teams, stepped up, and they were still able to get some things going at the end of the game and rally. And I guess two things I'll say. I get called a fanboy and a homer a lot, and how I just player love and defend everybody. I am actually pretty cutthroat and ruthless when I want to be. I don't trust Harrison Mevis in the slightest. I actually knew he was going to miss that field goal. And you know why? Because Harrison Mevis has never attempted any field goal with any sort of high leverage moment as a Ram. The one time he attempts that, he misses. And you start to see why, damn. So Josh Cardi, what he was doing last year was really impressive. Like, he didn't miss in the playoffs. Like, Harrison Mevis, the one high leverage kick he had to make, and he shanks it. And people will say, well, the wind. That's his job. Figure it out. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I honestly wouldn't have even kicked the field goal because I didn't trust him at all. I don't care if he hasn't missed. I didn't trust him at all because it's exactly what I've been saying to people. Been saying it every week, Alexis. Well, he's not missing. He's automatic. He's the greatest thing ever. No, what I think happened was Jake McQuaid happened. I think his long snapping is so much better than Alex Ward. I don't think Alex Ward was that bad. But Harrison Mevis, who did I'm not saying he did a bad job, but I was like, all right, let's see it when it actually push comes to shove and it's a high leverage moment, right? No one cares if your closer can pitch in the 5th inning. They care when you can pitch in the 9th inning, when the lights are the brightest and you're going up against the best hitters in the league. Harrison Mevis failed. The one time he was asked to go high leverage and he shanked it. And I knew he was going to, because the reality is this. They don't trust him either. That was the first time there's a reason why they kept going for it on 4th down. They knew they had to go for it. They don't trust him. No, they do not, and nor should they. So I'm sorry. Sounds cutthroat. It is cutthroat. I don't think Mevis is bad, but people were acting like this guy's kicking 60. Have you seen the way he kicks the ball? Doesn't always look pretty, man. Goes through the uprights and you don't care, but it doesn't always look pretty. So that's kind of where I come from on that. Some people disagree with me, but when, I hear, he's going to send us to the Super Bowl, and God, I hope not, because I took care of my heart palpitations earlier in the year. I will get more if I have to see him kick a field goal meaningful to go to the Super Bowl. That will be an issue for me, truthfully.
I think for me, the jury's still out on Mevis. What I will agree with is, I think that the special teams kicking unit has gotten better. Mm-hmm. So it is hard to, when people want to compare Cardi and Mevis, they're kicking with 2 different long snappers. The blocking has gotten significantly better. And to our point, Cardi was a scapegoat. Was not a fan of the way the Rams handled that at all. A lot of the stuff that a lot of Cardi haters were saying about him didn't make any sense, because what you mean to tell me within the span of 2 seasons, he all of a sudden just forgot how to kick a football? No, it was psychological. The long snapper kept messing up, the way that he was holding the kick. And then the offensive line that was blocking for him was completely folding on one side. And then you could see Cardi literally watching to make sure the ball was upright before he kicked. That's why he was taking so long to kick, and he was bracing for his offensive line to collapse. So the easiest thing for the Rams to do would have just been to fire Chase Blackburn and figure out the special teams unit, but instead they made Cardi the problem and they brought in Mevis. So now I feel like we should avoid doing to Mevis what people did to Cardi. But again, I don't know. Now it's like, this happened too late. In the season now, to where the Rams are you have Mevis and you have the special teams unit and you have Chase Blackburn. So I do not know what the answer is. I tweeted this out to special teams. It's too late in the season for somebody to get fired. I don't think the Rams are going to fire Chase Blackburn. I don't think they're going to make any changes to special teams. I think they've got what they've got. So it's a bummer, because the special teams, all the momentum shifted that play. The Rams were rocking, and all of the life was sucked out of the Rams team when she runs for that return for a touchdown. And we all momentum.
Knew it. That's on Ethan Evans for punting that right to him. That should have been out of bounds. That's on Chase Blackburn if he didn't get it over to him and saying, hey, you should punt out of bounds. I saw Matt Dodge all over again. If you remember, Giants punt, Deshaun Jackson takes it. It's just like, do not punt. The only thing, see, when you're down by 16 with 8 minutes to go against an offense that's going to likely go over 600 the way it was looking, you don't really have much of a chance. But the only way that you can win is quick scoring and not taking up a lot of time. So that was what was so deadly about that, is they get the quick score and then you shave off. Now it's whatever, they go for 2, right? So it ends up being an 8-point game now. And the fact that it's already an 8-point game and it's now no longer like, oh, we have a 16-point lead. The Rams absolutely pissed this one away. What bothers me the most is not the officiating. I already had that moment. What bothers me the most is Matthew Stafford. There should be a word invented to describe how much better Matthew Stafford was than Sam Darnold. Matthew Stafford was playing another game compared to Sam Darnold. Matthew Stafford threw 457 yards and 3 touchdowns against the second, third, or best defense in the league, depending on who you talk to. All that with a run game that didn't really get going the way they were hoping. Kyron ran the ball decently well. It's hard to run against this defense, but also Stafford was dealing with the fact that his right guard went down and Justin Dedich was out there at right guard, right? And I was just so impressed. Stafford didn't get sacked once. Do you think that was because he wasn't pressured? No. Stafford absolutely balled out. And it just bothers me. And I guess this is just the way, the way it goes, right? Is that nowadays it is what it is, but nowadays you can win a game however you want to win it. And unfortunately, this is football, and 457 yards and 3 touchdowns doesn't guarantee you a win. I kept saying I felt like this defense absolutely failed Matthew Stafford. And you know what? I thought Chris Shula, once again, I thought I had an issue with the way they called the game against the Panthers. I had a real issue against Seattle because we disagree on the fact. I don't think Sean McVey, I didn't really have an issue with Sean McVay's play calling. He actually stuck with the run game, which is what we asked him to do. And they just didn't have those 8 to 15 yard runs anymore. Seattle really buckled down against the run as the game went on. And honestly, Kyron Williams was doing his thing, like 23 carries, 70 yards. It doesn't sound great, but he was still adding. Blake Corum really didn't step up in this one. 14 carries, 48 yards. I know he had the touchdown. He had the tipped ball that you could have argued was an interception. But here's the deal. I thought Sean McVay actually called a great game, doesn't deserve any blame whatsoever, unless he was the one that told Chris Shula to play off, because I actually go back to the way the defense played. I think the defense and special teams blew this game. I don't want to, insert Kobe Turner in there. I thought he played a whale of a game. There were some others, but for the most part, I wasn't too impressed with the way Shula called this game. They tried to keep all the explosives in front of them. They still gave up 171 on the ground for 2 touchdowns. Just wasn't. The defense is a concern right now, I think. I still have no doubt in my mind. I told you this. The Rams are going to win it when it's all said and done. They will win Super Bowl 60. But they got to figure out the defense because they have an offense that can score all the points in the world. And if they're putting up 37 against the Seahawks team and they're putting up, almost 600 yards of total offense, what the hell are they going to do to the Falcons next week? What are they going to do to the Cardinals? What are they going to do if they see the Packers, right? Because the Packers have a nice defense. It's not Seattle. So that's the good news, is that I think this offense could literally win any sort of shootout at this moment in time. No Devontae Adams. They still put up all those yards and 37 points. But that said, the defense has to improve.
Yeah, you talk about the offense, and I was really impressed with a lot about the offense. And so, we talk about the run game. I thought the run game was okay. Seattle is a very good run defense. They certainly played better than they did the first time, we played them. As we brought up, the last time we played the Seahawks this season, I mean, in one half alone, remember Kyron had like nearly 90 yards and a touchdown or whatever it was, and he had like that 34-yard, he was breaking off those 34-yard runs, whatever. Then we moved away from the run game and we didn't want the Rams to do that again. That was not the same run defense. Seattle had a very good run defense this game. They were not giving up much. I thought that we made the best of it, as Jake said earlier. I thought Kyron looked pretty good, as good as you could. They weren't giving much. Corum did struggle, as you mentioned, but I think that was just because, he at this period of time really excels on the outside and he needs space. He's a good runner in space. And a defense like Seattle, you're not going to find space. They're going to force you to run in between the tackles. They're going to force you to run up the middle. And so, I think that's probably why we didn't see one of those kind of explosive games from Blake that we've been seeing the past few. But I thought, Jake, I was disappointed in the tight ends this game, really. I felt like there was a lot of drops from our tight ends. Davis Allen, it's kind of a weird one because, he had a lot of crucial drops, but then he also had some good plays. Like we saw Davis Allen getting involved more than we have in the past. Colby Parkinson had a couple good passes, but, felt like we expected a bigger game from him. I mean, the offense really was Puka Nacua. But we saw Mumpfield getting involved as well, which a lot of people were asking kind of about, oh well, if Devontae Adams is out, who's going to step up? Is it going to be Tutu Atwell? Is it going to be Mumpfield? Is it going to be Xavier Smith? Well, we found our answer. It looked like it was Mumpfield. Although Xavier Smith, we saw some out of him. Jake, the lack of Tutu Atwell was surprising to me. I will admit I had some Tutu Atwell props. I was very disheartened by the lack of usage of Tutu Atwell, but I think, what my opinion is that Xavier Smith is doing more than Tutu Atwell is currently doing. And the Rams feel like he is able to fulfill that Tutu Atwell role while also blocking, also maybe a little bit more explosive at this period of time. But Jake, I just felt like it is a shame, as you mentioned, that Matthew Stafford put up the numbers that he did, that Puka Nacua put up the numbers that he did, that we had a little bit of success in the run game, although I don't think it did much for us this game. But to be able to have that offensive game that we did and still lose is a testament to how bad the defense was. So, Jake, looking at this defense, I mean, they made Kenneth Walker look amazing. It was infuriating to see some of
He
these
is
runs.
amazing.
You
People
are
are finally
higher.
starting to see he's so much
Yeah.
better than Zach Charbonnet. They don't even play the same game. It's ridiculous.
I agree that he is better than Zach Charbonnet. I just think they're very different. I feel like to me, when I look at that Seattle backfield, it's not like the Rams were like, I do think there is a bigger difference between Kyron and Blake than people realize. They are meant to, they are similar, but they fulfill different roles. And you and I have talked about this. The Rams in theory, they really don't use Kyron and Blake for the same thing. But it's even a bigger difference to me when I look at the difference between Walker and Charbonnet. They're just two completely different backs. And that Seattle, and we talked about this last episode, Seattle has struggled in the run game this season. They have not been able to run the ball efficiently with Walker or Charbonnet, but you wouldn't know it watching them against the Rams defense because, I mean, Kenneth Walker alone, right? You had him, he had his way for most of the game with the Rams defense. And, that coverage, I felt like they were playing way too far off some of those receivers. And it felt like it changed, Jake, and maybe you have some insight to this in the second half. Because when you looked at the first half, like JSN, he didn't really do anything in the first half.
Nope.
They were playing real tight on him, that he was not able to, JSN's strength is in his routes, in my opinion. He's a very good route runner. I think it's the only thing that he arguably does better than Puka Nacua. I think Puka Nacua is a better receiver. I think Puka Nacua is the best receiver in the league right now, personally. JSN is very good, but I think his strength is his route running. I felt like the Rams were able to kind of shut that down with him and play tighter in coverage than JSN and some other teams have been. But then in the second half, the Rams just decided to play off everybody, I felt like. Especially they struggled against tight ends. I mean, you had AJ Barner out there, had some good plays. I mean, the play at the end of the game to the tight end, who was wide open on that 2-point conversion, mind you. I mean, mind blowing. I just felt like the defense in the second half, I don't want to say, I don't like using blanket statements of, well, they look like they thought they won the game. But you know what? That's kind of what they look like. And then you've got Ernest Jones saying that that's what the players were essentially saying on the field. I kind of believe it because I'm watching that and I'm going, this was a completely different defense in the second half. They didn't look like they thought that the Seahawks would do anything. And then by the time it felt like they figured it out, it was too late. That they also converted on every 2-point conversion they needed to. And again, maybe this is more credit we should be giving to the Seahawks offense.
Mm-hmm.
But like, Jake, I don't know. I mean, is that fair to say that in the second half, the defense looked like they were playing a completely different game?
Yeah. I thought the defense really kind of got maybe a little bit ahead of themselves with those 2 interceptions. They also probably forgot that the offense was the reason they were winning, not necessarily them. I love this team. Okay. I really, really like a lot of these players. And there's some that are like, okay, like obviously you're a Ram, I'll root for you. But I do think that this pass rush, and I've said it, is overrated. And they didn't get there nearly enough. And they didn't get there on the biggest game, the biggest play of the game, the 2-point conversion. And, like I said, I mean, Kobe Turner had a great game, 15.6 win rate. Pretty good for an interior player. Not sure why Josiah Stewart barely played. He had 5 pass rushing snaps and had pressure, won 25% of his reps. After that, I mean, Jared Verse, 13.9%. He had 7 pressures, but he won 13.9% of his reps against a backup left tackle. I thought Poona Ford was big in this one. He had a huge sack. He was really good in the run. He always is. I don't know why Ty Hamilton's out there, to be honest with you. That huge run, Ty Hamilton doesn't fill the gap. He gets blocked out of the play. I don't know. There were a lot of things there that upset me about this one. Just a really, really frustrating game because we shouldn't be talking about this right now. We should be talking about how the Rams they have the best offense that we've seen since the 55 touchdown Peyton Manning Broncos. That's what we should be talking about right now. We should be talking about like nobody can stop this offense. And instead, we have to talk about how they blew a 16-point lead and Ernest Jones gets to say that at the end of the game. And it's like, I mean, like I said, Ernest was on skates. I gotta be honest, I don't love the overtime new rule. I don't think I've ever loved anything about the overtime. I think they should just make it a quarter, truthfully. That's how I feel. And, if Seattle wants to score on the first possession and, score quickly, score late, like it doesn't matter. The Rams will still have it with time left. I mean, there's still about 3 minutes to go. It just kind of sucks. But yeah, and I hate ties also. So I don't love also the way it came together, how like the Buffalo Bills complained and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll put that in. It's like, all right, but anyway, be that as it may, I do feel really good about this team. Regardless, I think on a short week, you got to find that like happy medium, Alexis, where, and maybe I've already gone past that threshold, but you're critical of the defense, you're critical of the things they need to work on, but you're also understanding that they just played a really physical Lions team. I was at the game, I can tell you. I mean, there's essence of Bountygate in that team. I don't care what anyone says. You're watching Alex Anzalone trying to take people's heads off. Kirby Joseph would have if he was playing. The Lions are no joke. They hit hard, they hit late. You feel it. And so on a short week after playing the Lions, while Seattle got to stay at home and play a quarterback that retired 5 years ago, I actually want to give the Rams a lot of credit for being the team that stood up and had the lead that they did and put up 37 points and responded. See, that's another thing. Stafford and the Rams offense went down the field at will in overtime. Puka Nacua scored. And have you ever seen, I mean, the announcers didn't even react. That was a go-ahead touchdown in overtime in one of the best games we've ever seen. And they didn't even say anything. They were like, eh. It's like, so, yeah, just an absolute bummer to have such an incredibly historic offense performance against such a great defense. And to fall on the losing end just absolutely sucks. But, you know, I guess that's just the way it is. Devontae Adams likely won't play against the Falcons. By the way, Alexis, that just came out.
Yeah, I saw that.
Kind of assumed. I think they're going to stay. They're going to hold him out until the playoffs, which they should.
Yeah.
And Kevin Dotson might miss some time with an ankle sprain.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that doesn't sound like the end of the world.
No.
It's an ankle sprain, so it's going to linger probably, but it doesn't sound like the end of the world.
Yeah, you know, I feel good about this team going forward. And, you know, something that I said, and it sounds, you know, this isn't a cope, but the reality of the situation is that what matters is being in the playoffs. We want the number one seed, obviously. You want things to work out in a way that makes it easier for you. You want home field advantage. You want all those things. But at the end of the day, you're in the playoffs regardless. You know, I would rather be in the playoff, just, you know, if it meant knowing that I'd be the 7th seed, I still want to be there, right? You want to make it because no matter where you play, you have a chance. Everybody has a chance, right? So as much as this loss hurts, the only consolation is knowing we're in the playoffs, right? That's what matters. This was not the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was in February, and in order to get there, we have to play in the playoffs, which we know we are already in. We've clinched a spot. So it's not, it doesn't make this hurt any less. I guess it does. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's the only solace, or solace. But Jake, looking at this game, I think we've covered kind of what went wrong. I think it's a shame. Listen, it could have gone either way. And I've said this before. I think the two best teams in the NFL are the Rams and the Seahawks. I don't think it's close.
I agree.
I think, I think, other people bring up the Eagles or, the Bills or those teams are not as well-rounded as both of these teams. They just aren't.
The 49ers don't have a pass rush either. So can we start? Yeah, we might get the 1 seed. Yeah, you might. You're going to get stomped on because you don't have a pass rush. You can't get to the quarterback at all.
Yeah, I don't think that the 49ers are a well-rounded team at all right now either. What we watched last night was the two best teams in the NFL. And again, it's a shame that we ended up losing that one. It's a shame that, some things happen and that we hated. It's a shame the defense decided to do that at the worst time. The special teams was awful, but again, these teams are legit. And I think it is a testament. You can look at this Rams team and say they went head to head with the other top team in the NFL, and it came down to overtime and a 2-point conversion. So we will remember this. Hopefully, make some corrections, Jake. Before we get to, I know we've got some super chats. But I will just say, going forward, is there one or two things that you think the Rams need to make a point of emphasis? Because we have a while before we play again, guys.
Yeah.
Because we just played Thursday Night Football, so you get that mini bye. But we play next on Monday Night Football. So we get an extra day. And I know a lot of people are going to that game in Atlanta. So the Rams have quite a bit of time before they actually play another game. Jake, what do you think their point of emphasis is going to be to fix?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is the Rams need to find a way to make sure that you build off this loss, as hard as it is, because there's no way they should have lost this game. You have to find a way to build off it. You can't let this thing beat you twice, right? And you also, see, a lot of people A lot of Rams fans seem to think it's over now. Like, you can't come back from a loss like this. I don't know. I actually disagree. And the reason why is because they had a loss like this, not anywhere near as painful, but similar, the Eagles. And then they had it again 2 weeks later against their arch rival 49ers. They got to play the 49ers again and whip their ass. I was there. So I do believe these two teams are going to face each other again. And whether it's in Seattle or LA, I don't think really matters. I think the Rams are going to win. Like I said, I think the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. I'm very convinced about that. When push comes to shove, playoff Stafford is a different animal. They have the run game that, again, Seattle did a nice job stopping, right? But also, keep in mind, it was a lot easier to run when Dotson was in. It was a lot harder to run when Dotson was out as well. That's something that's not really talked about. But I just think that this Rams team defense isn't going to play this poorly every single week. They're going through something. Alexis, don't you remember there was a game late in the season last year? None of us expected the Rams to win. Remember they beat the Buffalo Bills 44-42?
Yeah.
And remember how bad that defense looked? And everyone was talking, Josh Allen had 6 touchdowns. Yeah, do you remember what people were saying about the defense at the end of the season? So, look, the NFL season, it's a long season. It's a grueling season. Sometimes things happen that you can't control. Sometimes things happen that you can control. They're going through something right now. I think they're going to be okay. Really no excuse to have Ahkello Witherspoon inactive. I hope they change that because I have no idea, what's going on there. But, yeah, I don't care if the Rams have the 5 seed, the 1 seed, the 2 seed. They're winning the whole damn thing. I feel very confident when I say that because when I think about it, it took all of that for Seattle to win. It took all of that for them to win on a short week at home. They were being dominated. They were dominated. It doesn't change the fact that they were absolutely dominated. And then you constantly hear people say, well, man, just imagine, Sam Darnold doesn't throw an interception. But he does throw interceptions. That is what Sam Darnold does against the LA Rams. He's always done that. So there's no just imagine he doesn't. He does. Now the Rams, they just found out that they can throw on your secondary. They're not afraid anymore. And now you've given them an axe to grind. So I don't like Seattle's chances in game 3. Plus, I think the Rams are the better team in general. But then, Alexis, who's beating the Rams in the NFC? The Eagles? They want to fire their offensive coordinator. The fans don't even trust their offense. You think that now, Vic Fangio is really good. You think Vic Fangio has anywhere near the defense Seattle has, and the Rams just threw all over them? What about the Packers? They don't have Micah Parsons. So who's going after Stafford? You know what I'm saying? What about the Bears? I think the Bears are good, but they also haven't really played a great schedule. So we're going to find out how good they really are. There's nobody in the NFC that scares me. It'll be Rams and Bills in the Super Bowl, unless it's Rams and Texans in the Super Bowl. Kind of how I see it. And if the Rams aren't in it, then it'll be Seattle. But I hope everyone saw last night, give Dan Campbell some credit when he said, that's the best right there in the NFC. That's what we have to do. Now we know where they are. He's right? Well, last night showed you that the rest of this conference is nowhere near this part. They're nowhere near the top. It's these two teams, and that's it. I am not going to let a short week, 1-point overtime loss where the Rams basically doubled the Falcons. They play the Falcons next. They basically doubled Seattle in almost everything. Total yards, they almost had 600. I am not going to let a 1-point overtime road short week loss mold my opinion and have me changing my mind about what I already know about this team, and that this is a historic team. And I believe when it's all said and done, we'll be talking about this as the best Rams team we've ever seen. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, they are still my favorite to win the Super Bowl, and I believe that they will. I thought, again, as Jake and I covered in this episode, there's a lot of things that the Rams did this game that they need to fix, and I think they will. I don't think that there was anything. I think the special teams is the only thing that you can argue right now. Um, is probably not something the Rams can fix and is like an actual weak spot of the team. I think the defense, I think we have a very good defense. I think we have an underrated defense for whatever for the reasons we described. And then I just think sometimes it happens for whatever reason last night, the defense did not perform. I thought they failed. They made some good plays, but at the end, they simply just, I think, folded against Seattle's offense. I think the scheme wasn't that great. And they'll learn from that. It doesn't take away from the fact that I think this defense is still very good. And that, that their issues, I think that they can correct or at least remedy a little bit enough to get by. But yeah, I know that this loss sucks, guys. Just does. I've been angry about it since it happened. It's been 24 hours. I'm still angry. I'm
Yeah.
sad. I'm bummed out. But it happens in football, unfortunately. I think it would get really crazy if you had a team that you've like never seen lose games like this. That would feel like you were robbing yourself of that heartbreak. I think every sports fan should experience heartbreak at least once. I can't imagine it's rewarding to not. But the big game, the one that really matters, guys, is in February, and I think that the Rams are going to be playing in it, and I'm confident that they're going to fix their issues going forward. But guys, we've got some supers, but before that, Jake, I hear that we have a word from Sleeper.
We do. And by the way, if anyone forgot, because I just think it's funny that I feel like everybody forgot. When it comes to the 5 seed, right? Everyone's deathly afraid of the 5 seed. Don't forget, Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the Super Bowl as the 5 seed. It's easy to forget. New Orleans actually won the division that year. They were the number 2. The Rams were the 6th seed that year. They beat Seattle. And then the Giants also won the Super Bowl as the 5 seed, the 2007 Giants. So, yeah, I don't care what seed they get. Like, I still know that they're going to be fine. Like, would I prefer the 1 seed? Yes. But at the same time, do you think Tampa is still bummed out about the fact they didn't win the division that year in 2020? I don't think they give a rat's ass. I think they're more focused on the Lombardi.
Well,
the Saints can celebrate that thing, though. I'm sure they have a banner hanging up. That's got to be the funniest thing ever, Alexis. I'm sure they got that banger hanging up,
Well, I do want to say, because I saw some people in the chat asking this, and while we're talking about seeding, the path to the 1 seed now for the Rams, in a short terms is, the Rams need to win out.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers need to beat the Seahawks and then lose to either the Colts or the Bears. That is the path to the 1 seed for the Rams. Comes from Nate Atkins, by the way. That's where, he recently tweeted that out. And so I shared that on Twitter. He is the senior writer for The Athletic, if you guys are familiar with him. So there is a chance still, right? There is a chance. It's, the Rams can still get the 1 seed. That is the way. I personally think that the Niners will lose to the Bears. I do think that is going to happen. And we'll see about the Seahawks. The Seahawks play the Panthers. Someone in the chat brought that up. That's right. The Panthers can beat the Seahawks, which would also help the Rams in this situation. And that one, after seeing, listen, Seattle's a very good team. We've given them a lot of praise this entire podcast. But, the way that they played against the Colts, and then knowing that this Panthers team, because we've seen it, is underrated in my opinion. They're better than you might think. There's a chance that the Seahawks lose to the Panthers. I don't think that's that crazy to imagine. I don't think it's going to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me, Jake.
I would say this. I think the 49ers are going to lose to the Colts on Monday night. This is not wishful thinking. 49ers do not have a pass rush, as I said. And the Colts were right on the doorstep of beating the Seahawks on the road. Now Phillip Rivers gets a full week. Jonathan Taylor can actually run the football. And it's in Indianapolis. I'll take the Colts. That's just the one win out of the way. The 49ers just had to lose one. Then you have Seattle. Seattle would have to lose either the Niners or they'd have to lose to the Panthers. To your point,
That's
I
right.
think they're going to lose to the Panthers. And here's why. I think, one, we've seen the Rams have won some games where you're like, wow, like that was huge. That was a big win, right? The emotional high of a win like that. And then all of a sudden, you lose. And case in point, the Rams destroyed Tampa Bay on Sunday Night Football right after beating Seattle, right after destroying the Niners. They lost to Carolina 31-28 in Carolina. Carolina also upset the Packers. Carolina is a much better home team than a road team. So the 49ers act all high and mighty because they beat the Carolina Panthers on prime time. And yes, you won, but Carolina is a different animal at home. And we saw that. Bryce Young looked really confident. Our guy Jalen Coker had a great game. We saw that.
Yeah.
So Seattle is going to have to stop the run. If they can't, if they give up the yards against Carolina, they gave up more on the road than they do at home. They give up the yards. Carolina's really got a shot. I actually think Carolina's going to upset them. And then Chicago. Chicago can't win out. That's it. I think the Rams are going to beat the Falcons and Cardinals.
Yeah.
Chicago simply can't win out, or they get the 1 seed. And they play Green Bay, San Francisco in San Francisco, Santa Clara, and Detroit.
Yeah.
I just don't really think it's crazy to say that all 3 of these teams will suffer at least one more loss before the end of the year. I don't think it's crazy to say that. If Seattle wins out, give them credit. But I don't think they're going to win out. And I don't think they're going to get swept by the Niners. I do think they lose to Carolina. I think it's also one thing that I was told about the Carolina game is that the way the Rams were looked at going into that game is they had a target on their back. Like, this is the best team in the NFL. We get a chance to knock them down. It was right after, in front of the entire world, they stomped on the Bucs, right? And they got a chance. So, yeah, the whole David versus Goliath thing, they played into that. Don't be surprised. Carolina's got to win a football game because they got to keep things going. This week, they got Tampa. I think they're going to win. If they beat Seattle, I believe they clinched the playoffs. So that's a must-win game for them. I do think they're going to get that done. And they're also pretty banged up. So Seattle lost some guys in this game. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I think the most likely to happen that no one's talking about is that the Colts are going to beat the Niners this week. I feel it in my bones.
That's what I have too. I'm in agreement with you on that. But guys, let's get to some supers because I've been seeing them come in.
Yeah.
So make sure to get those up on the screen.
I should just do a quick.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Sleeper
Can't
first.
forget
then
about our
supers.
friends over at Sleeper. You can get a 100% bonus match up to $100 using my code JKB. Also, be sure to hit the link. It's in the description for that. And check out the $20 entry, free entry, no deposit required over on Sleeper. So be sure to check that out again. Sleeper, JKB is the code. 100% match up to $100 using the code JKB. All right. Now, we got some super chats. Jinja Jesus, thank you for the 5. Spates definitely blew coverage on the 2-point play, 100%. And Seattle player only getting 1 game for stepping on Dotson, leading to his injury is dumb. Yeah, I agree with both. Alexis, I really like Omar Spates. But, and we don't know exactly the play. It could be on Forbes. Forbes he shot back at Ben Solak, who's a friend of the show, He shot back at him and said that he doesn't know football or whatever and didn't know what he was talking about. So maybe it wasn't Forbes' fault. I don't know. I don't know the play, Alexis. I know you don't know it either. No one knows except for the people who are in there. But if this is on Spates again, he also messed up. It was a perfect design play. It was a perfectly covered play. He goes and trails he chases after the running back, leaves the wide open window available, and Bryce Young wins the game in Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Seals the deal on third down. It happened again, and it looked like it could have been on Forbes. It looked like it could have been on Spates. Reality is, one of those guys, it was on. If it was on Spates again, who's to blame for that? Is that Shula? Like, do you have to bench Omar Spates at that point? To me,
but for who?
Dolak. I thought
Yeah.
Dolak was sensational in the little minuscule amount of time they let him start. He looked sensational. He absolutely looked like the second best linebacker on this team. And I like Spates. You know that. But yeah, I would be playing Dolak right now. I would.
I don't know. I don't know. I also agree. I don't know exactly who broke, where that play broke and who was responsible for that. Also, thank you, by the way, for the super chat. But yeah, I don't know. Speaking of Dolak, he got a big penalty last night too. And that's not related to how, he plays linebacker.
Yeah.
If you guys remember that.
They missed the face mask, though. Brad Allen special on the return.
Well, that's my answer to that that question. I do think it probably was on Spates because I think that's a bold thing for Forbes to say if he's lying.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he would just go on the internet and just start, well, I don't know, maybe if you're upset.
It's not a very good teammate thing to do, right?
He wasn't
like,
throwing
no, it wasn't me.
Spates under the bus necessarily. It was more so, I think he said...
Indirectly, I just mean basically being like, it's not me, it's somebody else. But yeah, I don't know. Not good regardless. Whoever that was on, not good.
No. I also hate the play. Don't play, I don't care if it's match zone, don't play zone at the goal line. Don't.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Go down, swinging with the man-to-man. Also, why are we doubling AJ Barner? Why?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? Anyway, Reckoning, thank you for the 5. Ref blew the 2-point play. Should have been inadvertent whistle rule. Please look up the rule for fumble and lateral passes.
So, well, thank you for the super.
Thank you. Nice. Appreciate it.
I have a little bit of mixed emotions about that play. I do believe. I think it actually was probably the right call. I think it's not the rule itself that I'm questioning. My interpretation of what it felt like happened to me is that the play was blown dead. And if the play is blown dead, even if that's the rule, it's unclear to me how you count that. Does that make sense? Like, how do you, it's not the rule itself, because I do think that that's right. I think that exists. Well, we've seen proof that it exists. That's not really up for debate. I think that to me, it was a dead play at that point. But who knows? I don't know. Like, that's such a bad answer. Jake, you take it. That's my answer is bad. I know.
Here's my issue. There are so many different ways to look at this. And the fact that there are all these things that we could talk about the rule and all that, tells me that this shouldn't be in the game. It's not in the spirit of the rule at all. They didn't put this in the rule for a guy to inadvertently pick up the football. He wasn't trying to score a touchdown. He wasn't trying to score a 2-point conversion. He was just picking up the ball. He didn't want it, and Seattle didn't challenge it. Seattle showed no effort in actually pushing this. This was pushed by the NFL HQ, which is why it feels fishy to me, truthfully. And I told you that off air. Everyone was wondering, what do you call this play? What are we going to nickname this play? I call it plot armor. That's why I call it. I think that the NFL took an opportunity to send this thing to overtime. If you ask me, I don't think that it was rigged in either team's favor, but I think, is it crazy to think that this $23 billion company wanted their showcase game between the two best teams in the league since they can't play in the Super Bowl? Is it crazy to assume that they wanted to extend this showcase game into overtime? I don't think it's crazy at all. So, yeah. The one thing I hate, I see people say it wasn't blown dead. It absolutely was. We can stop with that. But anyway, it was blown dead. The Ken Stabler rule is weird to me. Because that was essentially, it's called the Holy Roller rule. And the point was, it was created after a controversial play where Ken Stabler intentionally fumbled forward and the teammates batted and kicked it to tight end Dave Casper, and they had a game-winning touchdown because of it. Now, only the player who fumbled can recover and advance the ball in the last 2 minutes of a half or on fourth down. Otherwise, the ball is placed at the spot of the fumble. Here's where I feel like there's a disconnect. And it really is BS, because even if this is the rule, they pulled this shit out of their ass. Because it wasn't the referees, and it wasn't Seattle challenging it. And Alexis, that's where my issues draw from. It's the fact that the NFL called down and enforced this. Well, and I just think this is, you can't have, when you failed as a company, when your employers, we'll call them employers, when Sean McVey and Matthew Stafford and people on Seattle don't even know what the hell just happened. You failed when no one can actually understand what is happening. The thing I find funny is now, the next day, every Seattle Seahawks fan on Twitter is a rules expert now. But the reality is no one knew what the hell was happening. Okay? No one knew it. So I just don't like that. I mean, I personally think taking away the touchdown was more egregious, but that just felt like I felt cheated out of that, to be honest with you. We've gotten to the point where there is essentially a loophole in the rules where you can have a pass, a screen pass that is tipped, almost intercepted, and then it's not intercepted. The ball is on the ground. They blow the whistle, so everyone stops playing, and then the guy who didn't catch the initial pass gets to go over and pick up the ball and get 2 points. The fact that that's even in the rule book tells me that there's something wrong there. So that's how I feel. The play was, blown dead. It's been that way. The Rams have been fucked over on that more times than I can count, by the way, Alexis, because, I was there in the 49er game, and they said, oh, well, yeah, Isaac Warendo definitely fumbled, but we blew the play dead. And there was a clear recovery, and we saw the touchdown, but they blew the play dead. They couldn't overturn it. It just seems to always go against the Rams with the blowing the play dead this year. I've never seen anything like it. Jalen Hurts fumbled twice. I'm honestly, I'm just sick of it. I really am. I'm ready to move on, but yeah, the rule sucks, and this isn't football. At the end of the day, it's just not a football play.
Well, my argument for it is, and I said this in the live chat too, but I'll say it here. We will, there's going to be a debate about whether the play was blown dead forever, right? There just is. My thing is how did every single player on that field thought the play was dead? If the play really wasn't blown dead, why? What people are like, no, it was still a live play. Then all the players at the same time decided to just stop and just walk away.
No, Alexis, it was blown dead. Terry McAuley tweeted after the game, and he said that it doesn't matter. They can overrule a play that's blown dead. So at that point,
I know
that creates that's a slippery slope, because now, like I was saying off air, does Cam Kinchins get a penalty if he goes over and decks Zach Charbonnet? I bet you he does. I bet you he got an unnecessary roughness if he went over and clobbered him. That's the problem. When you tell guys to stop playing, there's no playing through the whistle. You stopped, the whistle blew. After the whistle is unnecessary roughness. I hate it. I just, of course, it's just that crazy shit that just always seems to go against the Rams. I'm over it. I'm over the whistle. I'm just over it.
I'm more just saying, like, to the people saying that the play was not blown dead.
Oh, it was. I mean,
Yeah, that's who I was addressing. But yeah, I don't know. I think that it is another situation of just, I agree. I think the Rams have been on the short end of the stick on some of those calls, particularly the Eagles game alone. But and I know that doesn't make, a lot of people are having bad luck against the Eagles, but I think my frustration with some of these rules is my biggest issue with NFL officiating, and this is not what this is about, and we're going to go to the next super in like 5 seconds, is consistency as well. Because that probably is not called in like a different game. It's like that is my frustration this season with NFL officiating, is it feels like the rules change every single game. And even if a rule technically exists, it doesn't feel like it's something that everybody's on the same page about. I don't know. That's a whole
no, I
different
think
conversation.
You're absolutely on. If this was a 4:05 game, the Rams win. No doubt about it. I have no doubt in my mind. If this was a 4:05 game, you play in prime time. Oh yeah, they do this shit all the time in prime time. We saw the two Fail Marys, right? We've seen constant, just absolute debacle of officiating in prime time. I think also the theory that I have is that the NFL likes that because people talk about it. Now people are talking about their sport. No one cares about the MLB free agency right now. No one cares that the Lakers won last night. No one cares. What they care about is that everybody is talking about the NFL the next day. Everyone is talking about this game. Everyone. So there you go. Congrats. Everyone talked about it. Yeah. If it was a 4:05 game, yeah, I think the Rams win. I do. It is
And
what it
with
is.
that, we've got more supers.
Like, Alexis, really, do you think that they call in and overturn that 2-point
I don't
conversion?
know about that. Well, I mean, I don't think if it's not a primetime game, yeah, maybe
Yeah.
that rule. But like I also again, and I've been saying, I think that like there was more to the loss than
There
like that.
was,
So
but
I don't know that I want to say that the Rams would have won. If they still played the same way, I don't think that they would have won. Personally, with the way that defense played, I mean, this and the special teams, like I think that they still would have lost. But that play in general just or that call, sorry, on with that rule, again, as you stated, it's when it's a rule that nobody knows about,
someone failed.
yeah,
Like,
something went wrong along the way.
and that'll be gone next year, and then everyone will bitch and moan and complain about it, like because they didn't even know about it until now. It is what it is. It's stupid. It's not football. I think the biggest thing on this one that I'll say is I want to lose because I just lost. You got beat on that. That was a really nice route, delayed. It was a block and release by what's his name, Eric Saubert.
Yeah.
Just you got beat, right? You got beat on that play. I want to see that. I don't want to see I owned your ass. I knocked the ball down, and then I almost picked it off. And then you just go over and willy-nilly pick the ball up, and now all of a sudden you get 2 points. No, you failed. And I guarantee this has happened before, and they have not called it. So, yeah, that's my thing. You didn't earn that. That's not a football play. That's worse than the tush push, which is just, it's a rugby scrum. But that is literally not a football play. Like, we're talking, you literally scored 2 points after the play was blown dead because everybody stopped playing because of the officials. It's on the officials, But it's not even on them because they had nothing to do with it. It was NFL HQ. They deserved the blame, but they knew what they were doing. Anyway, Topic City. Thank you for the 5. Our punts weren't very good as well. That is something that I noticed. Yeah. If it was actually raining, I would have understood it, Alexis. I don't know. Ethan Evans didn't look great against the Lions either.
Yeah, I agree. I just think bad night for punts and just special teams in general, every phase. Yeah, I didn't. I think for me, I didn't really notice it as much until the end, obviously. I mean, well, the one to Shaheed. And I know that McVey, and I'm not going to quote it because I don't know word for word. Apparently, I think he talked about Ethan Evans today and the punting situation, according to the chat. But I'm not going to pull quotes from the chat because who knows. But Jake, what were your thoughts on the punting last night?
I thought the punting left a lot to be desired. Special teams across the board wasn't very good. I will give credit where credit's due. I think Xavier Smith was good. He had some good returns. He made something happen when there wasn't a lot there. But that said, I didn't think the hands team or whatever, the fielding team, coverage team, there we go. Kicking coverage team. Good Lord, not that hard, Jake. The coverage team wasn't that great. I thought, Mevis was fine. And then, of course, like I said, high leverage, he flopped, wet the sheets. And then Ethan Evans, he wasn't great last night either. That punt, not good. I might have just gone for it at that point. I mean, I don't know. I just
yeah, off night. Ethan Evans, I think, has had some really, really good punts, obviously. I mean, the best punt I've ever seen, honestly, has come from Ethan Evans this season. But some have not been looking good. So, we'll see. But yeah, I agree. Not a good night for punting for the Rams. Also, Jake, by the way, my mom is watching, and she said that she loves that you tell exactly how you feel.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, and
I
she
appreciate that.
appreciates it.
Hi,
Um,
Felice.
yep,
Hi.
yep. Everyone say hi to my mom who's watching. Um, but new super in.
Yes. Sheep, thank you for the 5. What the hell was wrong with the 2 tight ends yesterday? I'm glad you brought this up. I can't believe I missed it. I
We talked
love,
about it a little.
I don't know. I love what Colby has been doing, but when
Hmm.
push came to shove, he dropped some really big ones. And
Him and
Davis
Davis.
Allen,
Yeah.
I felt like I was getting flashbacks to Jared Cook. It was bad. So it was,
Yeah.
I think, 5 drops yesterday, Alexis, for the tight ends. Meanwhile, the rookie that couldn't get on the field earlier in the year, which I think was more on the Rams, not necessarily on him, caught everything, including
Mhm.
getting helmet to helmet, getting crushed, and he caught the touchdown that Brad Allen got rid of since Seattle couldn't stop him. Brad Allen did. He was the only one that could catch in that tight end room. I don't know why they didn't use Tutu Atwell. You brought that up.
Yeah.
That was weird, but also there was a clear tell when they went to 13 that they were running. Defense needs to be better. Yeah, that's true. I also don't. They're like that team where their 13 personnel has gotten so dominant that they don't care. They're like, yeah, we're going to run the football, and you're not going to stop it. We're going to tell you exactly what we're going to do, and you're not going to stop it. Those guys need to catch, though. That was
Yeah.
was
I
bad.
just disheartened. I felt like, and there was some other drops as well, not just by tight ends,
Yeah,
and
they missed Adams. They were 3 for 6 in the red zone. They missed Adams in this one.
yeah, it just was not a good night, I think, in terms of drops from everybody. But yeah, the tight ends was like there were some, especially Davis Allen had some bad ones. So
Yes.
yeah, I don't know. And Kobe looked not as good as he has. I mean, but he also has been on a heater, right? So maybe our expectations have just gotten crazy, but he didn't look as good, but wasn't good enough. Was not good enough.
Stafford's adjusted completion percentage was 71.7. Finished at a regular completion percentage at 59.2. So just going to show you that he was putting it where it needed to be, but a drop percentage of 12.1% is not helping him out. And he still threw over 450 yards, 3 touchdowns, and didn't throw a pick. Say what you will, Stafford is him. That's for damn sure. Jeffrey, thank you for the 10. GG
Thank
Rams
you.
fans. Hope our next matchup is as epic. Very hard fought, and both deserve to win. See you in the NFC Champs game. Go Hawks. Next time, maybe we'll cover Puka. I don't really know how you go into that game. Maybe they just thought Puka was going to be so distracted from everything going on that he wouldn't be able to get open because he was open the entire game. It was kind of funny to see that. But yeah, no, appreciate it, Jeffrey. Good people there. Like I say, I mean, guys, be nice. Not everybody in here is going to be a Rams fan, and that's totally okay. We appreciate them tuning into our show, and let's not take it out. Like, I know you're upset. Let's not take it out on Seattle Seahawks fans that are supporting the show. Let's be honest here. This is a support.
Thank you.
So appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And yeah, very hard fought game. I mean, as I said, best two teams in the NFC for sure, but I also believe the NFL.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think the AFC has a team that's even close.
Nope.
Ram Fan Bland. Thank you, Craig, for the 5. Jake, I know you disagree, but McVey has got to learn to go for the jugular. Going 3 and out after Kobe Turner's interception was bad. Go for the kill shot. You know, I get what you're saying. And normally I am on this side, but I do feel like the Rams, you just have an interception, which was a close shave. Defense got out of it because, I mean, keep in mind, defense gave up a huge play to Cooper Kupp. Cam Curl punches that ball out. There were multiple times where Seattle had the big play on the Rams defense, and the Rams defense had the turnover. And I guess my thing is, McVey now knows, like, I got to be careful here, because if there's another turnover, if we give it right back to them, you know, they're going to score quickly. And it was hard because you want to run the football and you want to take time off the clock. It's really, you're in no man's land. But now, because Kevin Dotson's out, your run game isn't as potent. And on top of that, you're going up against a really fast defense, so you can't really run to the outside, as you mentioned, Alexis. So it really became an issue, to run against this defense. And, I mean, those are the problems that the defense presents itself. But also, think about this. Stafford didn't get sacked. That's true. Stafford balled out. That's true. But there was still concern because Justin Dedich is not going to hold up in pass protection against that defensive front.
Yeah.
And so I think they were protecting the lead. They were playing not to lose, but they also were in no man's land, where I don't think it's as simple to say, like, if Kevin Dotson was in there and they were doing that, that'd be different. But I think this was more so, we're playing with a 16-point lead. We have a backup right guard in there, not trying to get our quarterback killed. Because keep in mind, he did get absolutely decked in the sternum by Uchenna Nwosu. So I think that also might have played into it. They were trying to protect him. I didn't have, and I know it's weird. I've been very critical of McVey, even though I love him. I didn't have a single issue with the way McVey called yesterday. That was an enormously tough task on a short week with everything going on, having a kid, then having everything going on with Puka Nacua, right? And then on top of that, short week, issues like you mentioned with the flight, and then you're going to Seattle, you're playing in a hostile environment, you're hearing it's going to be rain and everything under the sun. And then, oh, by the way, first quarter, you're going to lose your star right guard. Right. So you also don't have Devontae Adams. He went down at the very end of the Lions game. So you don't have Adams. You don't have Dotson. And really, the Rams' depth was tested. And I thought McVay did a really nice job calling it. And it's like, man, you got to run the football. But at the same time, it's hard to run the football against this defensive line. So I give him a lot of props. We asked him to run the football. He did. I have no complaints about McVay. This to me is on Chris Shula being way too lax with the play calling, with the lead, and the special teams unit. In turn, you could say that's on McVay. I would definitely say that Chase Blackburn is a McVay thing. You know, he deserves blame for bringing in Blackburn. Blackburn has not been good at any point. And just because, you did so well and you got into these blowout wins to cover it up doesn't mean that it won't, rear its ugly head like it did on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, I in terms of the play calling, I agree. I would have liked to seen more aggressive play calling when we were up by 16 personally. An issue that I have had all season and not just this game, is I feel like, we get conservative way too early in games. I thought last night was the same thing. But when you look at all the things that had to happen for the Seahawks to come back, it wasn't just, that wasn't as big of an issue as, the defense deciding to forget how to, guard Kenneth Walker, or like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't, the play calling wasn't the biggest issue to me, but I do agree. I think that we need to get more aggressive there. But
Yeah,
it is what it is, unfortunately, hindsight, right?
it is what it is. Back to back. Thank you for the 2. You
Thank
trust
you.
them to not beat themselves for the 5th time. I mean, they had a 6-game win streak, and this is a team that has played how many? That's the thing that, we can sit here and we can give them a lot of flack for the way they've lost games. The Rams beat the Texans. They're going to the playoffs. The Rams lost to the Eagles. They're going to the playoffs. By the way, on the final play of the game. The Rams beat the Colts. They're above 500. The Rams lost to the 49ers on the final play of the game. Kyron, by the way, was punched in the head. I'm still pissed off about that. That should have been a penalty.
When everybody talks about, oh, they lost. And again, with all these losses, I'm sorry, I just interrupted you, Jake, but with all these losses, I have always said, and anybody who watches our show knows this, I've always maintained, it is never one play that loses you a game, ever. I don't care. I don't care how egregious the call is. I don't care how bad you make a mistake. If you've put yourself in a position to lose by a play, you've already lost. It just shouldn't happen. That's not a good way to play sports, right? So whenever people look back on these games across the season and they try to point out one player, or the Rams lost because of this, the Rams lost because of this, I'm like, in all the losses we've had, we've given up big leads. Every single one, almost, right? And then you look at the 49ers game, and I bring this up because it's what Jake said. Kyren Williams was literally punched in the head on that fumble. Everybody after the game on every station was like, that should have been called. That was another missed call against the Rams, right? But that's so frustrating to me that became the narrative of the 49ers game, getting a fumble, which was caused by a literal punch in the head. But it also ties into that point of every loss that the Rams seem to have had really, truly didn't come down to one call. And that's what I've been talking about a lot with this game as well. It's not just a one call thing. So sorry, Jake. I just wanted to point that out because you brought up a good point.
Yeah, no, of course. I just think the Rams, the most battle tested. They've played a really tough strength of schedule. One of the toughest in football. I think it's all going to come out. Like when people are like, are you sure you trust this team? Yeah, I am. Playoffs are different. Like Sam Darnold has never looked good in the playoffs. So are you sure you trust Sam Darnold in the playoffs? Just because he got that win, which I didn't think he was remarkable at all in that game. Seattle, great win last night. But are they winning that in LA? If they have to go to LA, are they even going to win that at home in the playoffs? I don't know. Do you trust Caleb Williams in his first ever playoff? I don't. What about, the Eagles? If it's not in Philly, the Eagles don't scare me. Like the whole thing about the Eagles is that they win an easy division every single year. And then you go to Philly and you play them in winter conditions. And they have this offense that's super boring, and they have this style where they are going to have the time possession battle every time. They're going to have 38 to 40 minutes of the game, and you're not going to have a lot of time left. And they play that ugly style of football. That's what they do. But if they're on the road, I don't think they win. And then Tampa, right now, they're the 4 seed. Tampa would get smoked yet again by the Rams. Baker doesn't look like Baker. Like, it's not good right now. The 49ers have no pass rush. Brock Purdy would get killed by the Rams. Brock Purdy is an outperforming Matthew Stafford. And if you think that Seattle, who has one of the best, defenses in the league, getting almost nuked for 600 yards, if you think the 49ers can do better than that, I don't know what to tell you. They didn't when I was out there. Stafford always rips them. And then the Packers. Like, what has Jordan Love done in the playoffs? You know what I'm saying? So I'm not worried about any of these teams. Like, why would I? And then you look at the AFC, and you're like, what has Bo Nix done? They're playing an easy schedule. The strength of schedule is below 400 for Bo Nix and Drake May. So they played like hardly anybody. And all the close games that the Broncos have played, like, all of them have been against good teams. Like, they really, really went down to the wire. You give them credit for winning, sure, but they also haven't played that many. They're undefeated at home. But what happens when the Super Bowl is not at home, right? New England, they play an easy schedule. They just lost to the Bills. Are they coming back down to earth? Jacksonville, the Rams swallowed them whole. I'm not worried about Jacksonville. I'm definitely not worried about playing Trevor Lawrence in the Super Bowl. What about Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers? Not a freaking chance. The Rams would boat race them. The Chargers, nope, they don't have either of their two tackles. The Bills and Josh Allen, well, Josh Allen, but the rest of the Bills team, I'm not scared of. And the Texans have a Super Bowl defense, but if the Rams were able to do that against Seattle's defense, why can't they do that against the Texans' defense? So that's kind of what I'm getting at here. It sucks right now, but the Rams are fine. I'm not out on them at all. And there's nobody that I actually fear. And that includes Seattle, because I think they are going to win the next game against Seattle, because it took everything in the kitchen sink for Seattle to win this game. So, yeah. Rocco, thank you for the 5.
Thank you.
Watch the play. Dotson gets hurt. Seahawks dirty player stepped on his ankle intentionally. I am so angry right now. Rams went out number 1 seed, I believe. Well, hopefully, and I hate to kind of clump Seattle because I don't believe they entirely represent that, but hopefully karma bites him. We'll just say that. He's only suspended 1 game. Hopefully karma bites. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, thank you for the donation. I did not like that either. That was not something I noticed live. Obviously, I don't think most people notice live, but I did see the video, and that's just punk shit. I don't like it.
Yeah, it is. Reckoning, thank you for the 5. Cam was supposed to crash down in the zone on the 2-point play at the end. I don't. It's hard for me to know what guys are supposed to do. I don't know their assignments. Cam, I thought, played pretty decently, so I'm not going to throw too much. But frustrating, very, very frustrating end. And I don't think the better team won. So as much as highly as I am on Seattle, and I was one of the first people. I think I was higher on Seattle than most Seattle fans were. But yeah, I'll tell you right now, the better team did not win. That's how I feel. I don't care how sour grapes that sounds. Sorry, I thought the team that was up, 30-14 or whatever, was the better team. That's just my opinion. LA Canuck, thank you for the 20. Thank you, Carl. Was at SoFi at the watch party, which was really fun. Such a tough loss. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. It was a dead play. I just tuned in. This is the first Rams coverage I could bear to watch today. So tough. I get it. I get it. And, all the knee-jerk reactions on, all those shows, which I don't know how people watch them, but all of them. It's all, oh, the Rams are in trouble. Oh, my God. Blah, 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 blah.
Well, we appreciate you watching us.
Yes,
we wear that with a badge of honor.
I think it's almost guaranteed these two teams are going to play in the playoffs.
I think so, too.
Because whoever plays...
I think so, too.
Whoever plays... and, people are going to say, well, Carolina beat the Rams. Carolina might beat the Seahawks this, next week. Yeah, but that was the first time. Having to beat the Rams and sweep them, that's going to be a much different thing if they play them. Anyway, appreciate you. Mike, thank you for the 10. McVey broke down 2-point play well today. There's difference between a fumble and a backward pass. He said it will be a topic of discussion for competition committee in the offseason. Sucks that we find these edge cases. Yeah, it's amazing, how ironclad the rule book is, and yet there's always seem to be these loopholes and things that just every year it's brought up. So appreciate you, Mike. Conservative Millennial, thank you for the 5. Jake, Alexis, love the show. Big picture, Super Bowl game win means more. My issue, why are we making it hard on us to get there? Try for the best spot possible. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I agree.
It sucks right now to lose this game. I the best way I could contextualize losing this and how I feel is I'm not mad or worried about the future. I'm mad about the result. That's it. I just wanted to win the damn game. And I thought that the better team lost. And that makes me sour. But am I worried? Not even the slightest.
Good way to put it.
Conservative millennials back at it with the 5. If you were Coach McVey, what are you telling Coach Shula Blackburn on a one-on-one sit down and going forward? Oh, God.
I mean, Blackburn, I'm hopefully telling you're fired. You're out.
I'm hiring Coach Bones if I'm Sean McVay right now.
Yeah,
I'm just doing whatever I can.
Yeah. Shula, I think, has done a lot of really good things with the defense this season. I don't understand this playing just so far, this zone, and playing so far off some of these guys. Like, you look at Detroit, and obviously we ended up winning that, but like the way they were playing against St. Brown was one of the most confusing things I've seen from the defense this season. So, I mean, I think with Shula, I'm just like, the way that you were playing against, Seattle at the end of the game, I'm saying change your coverage.
Yeah, I'm not. I would say, yeah, there's this kind of, I don't know how much McVay has to blame with this, right? But there's this idea, I kind of feel like Shula's taking for granted how good this offense is, so they play off, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll keep everything in front of us. I don't know. I don't like it. You brought it up with Amon-Ra. Because congratulations, not only did you failed not to keep everything in front of you, you still gave up the stuff in front of you on top of that, because in the Lions game, you gave up the explosives. Gave up tons of explosives. Jared Goff had not thrown deep down the field at all this year on tape. I watched every game of his. I was not impressed. And then this game, I was there, and I'm like, this dude, this is not the same quarterback. This is a Ben Johnson Jared Goff. This wasn't Jared Goff this year. So, yeah, I don't know. Reckoning, thank you for the 5. Man,
Thank
reading
you.
the chat and everyone blaming McVay is crazy. Your offense put up 37. You should win the game. Case in point. It's what I said last night. People push back on me. Hey, everyone has their opinion, but I'm just telling you right now, Sean McVay is not the issue. He's not. Right now, there's a real chance that this defense is regressing in real time. I'm not saying that they are. They're having a rough go at it, but there's a real chance they are. And if they are, right, one thing that has been constant is the offense scoring. Going back to Jacksonville when they kind of figured everything out in the red zone, 35 points, 34 points, 42 points, 21 against Seattle, 34 against Tampa, 28 against Carolina, 45, 41, and 37 last night. The offense should not be blamed. I just don't think so. It should not be blamed when you're scoring that much. And they didn't stop them. Alexis, this didn't end with Sean McVay failing on a 4th down in overtime. They didn't stop. Seattle did not stop the Rams, period. They gave up a touchdown. Like, easily. It was the easiest touchdown of Puka Nakua's life. So.
Yeah. No, and it is, I think it's a shame, you talk about it again, and it's just the defense last night just did not, that can't happen. And it was like, Matthew Stafford putting up all those yards he did.
Yeah.
And losing, it just doesn't sit right with me.
No, it doesn't with me. And you hope they just build off that. I don't think it's going to break their spirit. I don't. People do. Let them. But I don't think that's going to. Deb, thank you for the 10. A lot of supers tonight. I appreciate you guys. Yep, just got home, just jumping to say hi. Blackburn is on my list. LOL. I don't think she's talking about a happy list. I don't think she's talking about the nice list either. So, Also, people on X blaming Stafford for the loss. Oh my word, he played his you-know-what off. Anyway, on to the next. Yeah, anyone blaming Stafford doesn't know a thing or two about football.
Yeah, anyone who's doing that is insane. He played great last night, and I think that, from what I'm seeing, people are finally back on the MVP train for him. So it took a week off or two or whatever, and now everyone's saying even with the loss, he is undisputedly the MVP, which is what we've already known. But it's
Yeah.
nice to see other people say it.
Yep. Like Tony Stark said, even dead, I am the hero.
Yeah.
Watt, run it. Thank you for the 2. Do you think
Thank
Shula's
you.
on track for a head coaching job? Absolutely.
I think so.
Absolutely. My guess is I'm going to say either the Cardinals or it will be, I'll say the Cardinals, Giants, or Dolphins. That's where one of those teams.
I'm feeling I've been saying the Giants and the Dolphins, but I think the Giants make a lot of sense, unfortunately, for Marcus Freeman.
I would hire Marcus Freeman tomorrow. He would be my number 1 option. And I'm not just saying that because I don't want Rams coaches to get hired. I 100% believe Marcus Freeman is a culture builder, not a changer. I don't need him to change a culture. I need him to build one. And I believe that he can build a winning culture. If I'm Arizona, I get Marcus Freeman as soon as I can.
Yeah. I know, but see, I love Marcus Freeman so much, and I don't want him in the NFC West for that reason. Because
No, I think you might be honest on. He might be going to the Giants.
I think the Giants make the most sense for him, personally, but and that's why I think like Shula also to the Giants makes a lot of sense. I think, but I think Miami is an interesting concept for him. But I mean, the Giants, I think, to me, and this is not related to the question, is I think that's the most probably like coveted job to me.
Yeah, well, you have your franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
You have a lot of players on your defense.
Yeah.
You have a superstar wide receiver. I know he
And they're
tore
all
his
young.
ACL, but
And they're all young, which is why when you talk about like Freeman,
elite
kinda like
left
building-
tackle.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see. But yeah, I do think that Shula, sorry,
And-
to answer your question, is on track.
Freeman is a defensive coach, right?
Mhm.
See, that's the thing about Freeman. People are going to overlook him because he's not a quarterback whisperer. I don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't care if he even calls plays as a defensive coach. That dude is going to lead your team through the fire. That's the reality of it. That's all I want.
Yeah.
John Harbaugh was a special teams coordinator. So, worked out pretty well winning a Super Bowl with him.
Yeah.
Roger, thank you for the 20.
Thank
Great
you,
effing
Roger.
show tonight, y'all. This is exactly what I needed finally to move past this L. We will bounce back. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I appreciate it, Roger.
Yep. Thank you.
I agree with all that. I do. I thought this was a great effing show tonight.
It was a great show, even though we were talking about something that made us feel so not great. Those are always the end results that you want when you have to talk about a game that was frustrating as this one. And you hope to still have a good show. And we thank you everybody who tuned in tonight. A lot of people in here. Chat was super active. Hopefully Jake and I were able to kind of talk you through and talk you down some of the emotions that you have been feeling since the loss. The Rams play again on Monday Night Football as our next game. Jake in Atlanta against the Atlanta Falcons. So Jake and I will be back after the holidays to preview that. We are going to take a holiday break. I'm traveling back to St. Louis for the holidays, so I'm going back home. I know Jake's busy over the holidays as well. I hope that everybody has a great holiday season spent with people that you love, doing whatever you want to do, and getting some, hopefully, relaxation in.
I like that.
During the holidays. But guys, as always, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. You can follow us on social media at Downtown Rams. You can follow me on Twitter /X at the Alexis Craft. You can follow Jake at JK Bogan. Guys, have a great holiday season. Take care of yourself, take care of one another, and as always, stay safe, take care, and go Rams.